All right. So basically, in the previous chapter, we've been talking about the transport system in the digestive system in humans, and it was our aim to understand that how different molecules enter into the body, what happens to them once they are entered, and what happens to them whenever they are absorbed, and where do they go first. So everything is like this, and whenever we discuss the things, whenever we discuss the digestive system, we also discuss with the enzymes, we also discuss the problems of the digestive system, from where the secretions are released, from where the enzymes are released. Everything we discussed. What are the purposes? Even then, we have um, even sometimes whenever we start doing the questions, uh, we basically get some new information every time. Like what sometimes it happens that this chapter is so full of information, this particular chapter is so full of information that sometimes it happens that miss the we miss some information, and that information appears in the past papers. So this chapter is very very critical in that sense. So anyways, we'll be doing the past paper questions to make us realize that how much we need to practice the things. All right, so uh, the chapter we are about to start is the transport system, and we have already talked about the transport systems in the plants. So what basically is the transport system? And you can say that my question is, what is a transport, and what do we need to transport in animals? First of all, let's see what needs to be transported all over the animal body.
Um, Blood
Okay, what is the purpose of the blood?
to carry around oxygen.
So it means the basic thing that needs to be carried is not the blood. It is the oxygen or the things that are found in the blood. Got it. So what else do you think that is needed to be transported other than oxygen?
Water, maybe?
I'm sorry.
Water?
Your voice cut. Please repeat.
Water.
Oh yeah, exactly. Water. Okay, we can discuss all these things later. I can give you one more thing: wastes. We will be discussing all these much much detail. So basically, we need to transport these things all over the body, and that is correct. Now, with the oxygen, you can also add carbon dioxide. You know very well the carbon dioxide is produced by the body. Next is, now when we try to know about the transport system, what are the transport system and how do they work? The main and important thing is that transport systems are of two types. Number one um, is the you can say the circulatory system. These two systems you'll be finding in all over the animal kingdom, almost all over the animal kingdom. So it means that first system that works as the transport is the circulatory system. The second system that works as a transport system is the lymphatic system, and it is the thing that we are not going to talk about anymore in our whole syllabus. But remember that the lymphatic system is actually a type of transport system. So transport system and circulatory system are not the same things. Transport system exists in two ways. Transport system exists in two ways, but obviously we can simply say that the circulatory system is different and lymphatic system is different. So what do you think about the circulatory system? What do you sense? What the word circulatory is trying to say?
So the circulatory system, it circulates blood
First, just tell me what the circulatory means.
going around in a circle, basically.
Going around in circle, yes, basically. So something is moving in circles. This is the system that works as a transport system. This system basically is moving in round and round and round. It is constantly moving in round. So this is why the circulatory system basically is something that we need to know, that the word circulation does not mean that the blood is moving. Circulation mean anything is moving. So first of all, why am I emphasizing that circulation does not mean the only blood is moving? Please focus that the in the circulatory system, we need to move any fluid around the body, any fluid that is responsible to carry, that is responsible to carry different substances, carry different substances. So that is what the you can simply say that is what the first thing you will need in the body, any fluid that carries the things, because the circulatory system is a type of transport system, and transport system means that it is moving around the body carrying the thing. So first of all, we need a fluid to carry different types of compounds. Second thing that we need in a circulatory system is any any organ that pushes the fluid, that pushes the fluid all around the body, all around the body. So this is also another important thing. Moving in, so any fluid that is responsible to carry different substances, first of all, you need a fluid. Second, you need an organ that pushes the fluid. Obviously, remember that these systems are only found in mammals. The transport systems, these transport systems are only found in mammals. So, and we also know that mammals are of different sizes. Mammals are of different sizes. So the moving of the fluid depends upon moving depends upon the um, upon the push of the organ, how much the organ is capable of pushing different things. What smallest mammal do you know?
Smallest mammal.
Hmm.
I think I heard somewhere that it's like a, what do you call it? A shrew.
True. There is an animal called as kangaroo rat.
Okay.
So it means that actually the the kangaroo rat is the smallest mammal, and it would have smallest heart. Why? because it is the smallest size. So all of these organisms, they would be containing the organ that is responsible for pushing. They would be containing the organ of different size. Third thing is we need to keep the fluid in its path. Now what does that mean? That actually means that when the fluid is uh, when the fluid is pushed, now that fluid needs to remain in its path. That fluid needs to remain in its particular, you can say, position, in its particular site. So that basically is, you can say, we need the ducts for that. We need the ducts or vessels. We need the ducts or vessels for that purpose. That the fluid needs to keep on its path. Now, obviously, the scientists name the things accordingly. So, the fluid that is responsible to carry different substances, actually, it is called as blood. And why I did not name the blood first. First, I needed to make you understand that what is the function of the blood. That is why I did not straightforwardly named it the blood. Secondly, many of the organisms do not have the blood like we possess. Their blood is either blue colored or white colored. And you may know that the octopus contains the blood with blue color, and many insects contain the blood with white color. So that is why I was not naming it in the first place. Second is, second thing that is basically pushing this fluid is called as heart. This organ is a heart. Or you can say that it basically is the pumping vessel. It basically is the pumping vessel. Actually, for other mammals, for small animals, the heart is so small that sometimes we do not call it heart, we just call it a pumping vessel. So that basically is the point of calling it a pumping vessel, because because they are so small. But obviously, according to our syllabus, we would only name it the heart. Okay. Next is next thing is um, the duct, the blood vessels. We often name these vessels as simply as the blood vessels. Simply as the blood vessels. So first of all, out of all these, okay, any confusion till here?
No, clear.
Okay. First of all, we need to discuss that what is the blood. Okay, first of all, you answer me. What's the blood? Is it an organ, a tissue, a molecule, or cell?
Um, I mean, blood is a tissue, right?
Hmm. Blood is a tissue. Okay, I remember one thing. I told you to match your answers with the marking scheme yesterday. The answers that I told you to, that I discussed with you. You said that you were not able to do them. Those questions.
Yeah, I just checked the mark scheme and marked it like,
And what was the like? Did we when we were discussing it? Did we were we successful in matching the points, or were there like
yeah, it
any
was
points were
successful.
missing?
No, it was
Okay, good.
successful.
Okay, the blood is a tissue. Now, remember that every tissue has two requirements. Every tissue has two requirements. First requirement is it needs to have a tissue fluid. Remember that the tissue fluid is basically the environment of cells existing inside the tissue. Environment of cells. So always remember, that the it, tissue itself is nothing. Tissue itself is nothing but the but the the tissue itself is nothing. Yes, I was just saying it is actually because of the fluid present in it and the cells present in it. So the first requirement is to have the tissue fluid, and remember that the tissue fluid is mostly water and some other minerals. Mostly water and some other minerals. I'm just telling you this generally. Remember, this is not like for most of the tissues, this concept is correct. That every tissue needs to have the fluid in it. Second thing, obviously, every tissue needs to have is the cells of uh, cells which are working for same purpose. Same purpose. All right. So let's see the tissue fluid of the blood. Now, please focus. For the blood, the terminology changes, but the principle remains the same. And what that is, for the blood, the tissue, since the blood is a tissue, the fluid of the blood is not called as tissue fluid, but it is called as a plasma. It is called as a plasma. And the rest are cells, and they are called as cell or cell-like bodies. So the tissue fluid is actually called as the plasma. Okay, so if you want to write about the blood, then the blood is made of two things. Number one, the plasma, and number two, the cells and cell-like bodies. Cell-like bodies. Okay, do you know about the plasma? I'm sorry. Do you know about that we can separate the cells from we can separate the cells from plasma?
No, I didn't know that.
We have a technique that is called as centrifugation. You may are aware of this particular technique. Are you?
I've heard it before, but uh,
Do you know about the centrifugal force?
yes.
What is it?
So centrifugal force is like it's when the force is in circular motion and then it's it acts like along the radius and then is directed from the center of the circle away from the
Yes,
center. Okay.
and away from the center of circle. Exactly. And there is another principle. Basically, I'm not going to explain it. Just a little concept that when we apply the centrifugal force, since it pushes the object away from the center, always remember that the heavier the object, the farther it would go. The farther it would go. So we use this particular machine called as centrifuge to separate the cells from the blood, and the remaining fluid is what we call that fluid is the plasma. Now we need to know that what are the constituents of plasma. Constituents of plasma. Okay, so anything you know about the constituents of plasma? Keeping in
No,
mind that plasma is a tissue fluid.
I don't know the constituents of plasma.
Okay, the constituents of plasma. First of all, 90% water. And it is this water due to which the substances move. Substances move and dissolve. Remember that I may have already told you this as well, that the blood or the red color of the blood is not the true thing that is moving in our vessels. No, it is not the real thing. The real thing that is moving in our blood is I'm sorry, the real thing that is moving in our blood vessels is the water. Whenever you see the water is moving, whenever you see the blood is moving, it is only because of water in it. Otherwise, without the water, the blood is nothing. You may have increased the red blood cells, you may have increased the white blood cells, you may have increased other constituents of the blood, but if there is if there is no water in the blood, then the blood is useless. So the real thing, the real deal of the whole blood is the water. It is only the water because of which we are moving. So what about the rest of the 10%? Okay, in the rest of the 10%, we have gases. In the rest of the plasma, we have wastes, we have hormones, we have organic molecules like fats and carbohydrates. I am not mentioning the proteins here because protein is an exclusive part of the blood. So I'll separate the proteins from it. Then there are electrolytes. What are the electrolytes?
Um, they're basically ions, right?
Hmm. They're basically ions or minerals. Yes. Then there may be some, as an organic molecule, there may be some vitamins. Hormones are there. There are proteins, very important proteins. Like there is a protein called as the fibrinogen, responsible for the clotting. There is a protein called as albumin that is responsible for the water content of the blood. So these are very important things that are found in the blood. Mm, I guess that's all. These are the subs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I remember any more, I'll tell you that. Okay, so yeah, you'll also find the antibodies in the blood. Antibodies. So these are basically the components of the plasma. The plasma travels with all of these things, and you must know. Okay, no, that's not a point of at our level. Okay, so any confusion about the plasma?
No, it's clear.
Next is the cells and cell-like bodies. Cell-like bodies. Now, about this particular topic, Uh, Remember that, first of all, you must know that all blood cells are made in bone marrow from similar stem cells. From similar stem cells. All of them, all of blood cells have a nucleus in the very beginning. Nucleus when they are not differentiated, when they are undifferentiated. Undifferentiated. So all of them are uh, um, they possess the nucleus. And the very first cell that you would find in the bone marrow is the red blood cell. These are also called as erythrocytes. Erythrocytes. What is the meaning of erythro and what is the meaning of cyte?
I don't know.
Erythro is this called as red. Cyte means cell, red cell or red blood cell. These are the erythrocytes. Then the other component of the blood is the white blood cell. White blood cell. White blood cell is called as leukocytes. Leuco means yellow, white or pale white basically. And the third is the platelets. And platelets have another name called as thrombocytes. Thrombo means clot. So remember that these names, you need to remember these names because they are included in our syllabus. So these are important. Okay, next is let's discuss the red blood cell. The red blood cells red blood cells. The red blood cells or erythrocytes, they obviously are made in bone marrow from the stem cells, and their stem cells have no hemoglobin and nucleus is present. Stem cells. Next is, once the stem cells of the red blood cells are differentiated, you remember the concept of differentiation?
Um, yeah, I think so.
I told you in the very beginning. I told you in the very beginning. I said that the cells make changes in their shape, their organ composition, and they change their shape and they increase or decrease some organelles. So that would be called as differentiation. Anyways, next is once they are differentiated, Now they would be called as red blood cells or erythrocytes, and they would be containing no nucleus with hemoglobin stuffed in. Globin stuffed. Another thing that would not be found is the mitochondria. Mitochondria. You may also not find the endoplasmic. Okay, that is not our basic in our syllabus. So mitochondria, nucleus is absent, and why is that? To to basically uh, make room for hemoglobin. That is why the red blood cells lack the nucleus. So, um, what is the hemoglobin basically? Hemoglobin, okay, what do you know about it, about the hemoglobin?
It's a red pigment inside the red blood cell.
Hmm. And what's the function?
Function, carrying oxygen.
Yes, the hemoglobin basically carries oxygen. Hemoglobin can combine reversibly with the oxygen to make the HBO, the hemoglobin molecule, but it is reversible. So the hemoglobin basically, the red blood cells, another thing about the red blood cell is that they are very small to decrease the distance of diffusion. Decrease the distance of diffusion. If you remember, there were some factors that which were increasing or decreasing the rate of diffusion. You remember what are those?
In hemoglobin specifically.
No, 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 no. Randomly.
So like temperature, um, surface area.
And distance. Distance basically is inversely proportional to the diffusion, meaning that larger the distance, lesser would be the diffusion, lesser would be the rate of diffusion. So it is very small, and the shape of the red blood cell is biconcave. Biconcave. Like it would appear like this when you'll see in the microscope. But if you look it from the side, it would look like this, the dumbbell shaped or biconcave shape, like this. So basically, uh, this is the minimum distance of oxygen to travel from the from the outside to hemoglobin. Very small. Okay, next type of cells is the white blood cells. Any confusion in the red blood cells?
No.
Now the white blood cells, they are called as leukocytes, made in bone marrow. Bone marrow, and there you can say they are of two types. One is called as lymphocytes. I'm writing lymphocytes on the left side because we'll be discussing the lymphocytes in the next chapter. The other type of white blood cell is the phagocytes. Okay, so the phagocytes, or the you can say these phagocytes are basically known as cells that eat other cells. Other cells. And the white blood cells, they act as the defense of our body, main defense of our body. They act as the defense of our body. And the phagocytes, they whenever recognize, whenever recognize any particle that does not belong to the body, does not belong to the body, any particle that does not belong to the body, they swallow it and kill it. That is why they are called as phagocytes. They are very large cells. Phagocytes are very large cells with a very large nucleus in them, very large cells. And suppose this is a bacterium. Now, what would they do? They would get closer to the bacterium and they would create a pocket in their cells. A pocket in their cells. And once the pocket is closed from both sides, the pocket is going to be closed. Once the pocket is closed, the bacterium is now inside the cell in a particular vesicle called as food vacuole. Now, in the very next step, the phagocyte would kill the bacterium. You can see here, these are the parts of bacterium, and they would kill the bacterium by some enzymes. They would just kill the bacteria and get rid of the infection particle. That is why we call it the phagocyte. Let's look at its phenomena closely once.
Okay.
Okay, so the white blood cells, they are also made in bone marrow. They are also made in the, they are also being matured. The lymphocytes we'll be discussing in the next chapter in a great deal. Now, the last type of cell that we'll be discussing here is the uh, platelets. Platelets. This one is extra. Okay. These cells, as I have already told you, these are called as thrombocytes. And the thrombocytes, they are literally not the cells. Now, this is something very strange. The platelets are not the cells. Then what are they? The platelets are fragments of uh, some large cells only contain enzymes inside them. only containing enzymes. Like they are basically, you can just simply say that they are the released vesicles from the larger cells having no nucleus in them, and they contain only enzymes. What enzyme they typically contain? The enzymes that they typically contain is the prothrombin. Prothrombin. This enzyme is located inside the platelets or thrombocytes, and they are responsible for clotting. Responsible for clotting mechanism. Now, how do they perform the clotting? That is the main idea. The clotting is done, clotting phenomena. The clotting is done when you have an infected site or a ruptured or incised portion. Incised mean a cut is made, a ruptured part, and some dead cells. Since when you get a cut, when you get a splinter into your finger or arm, or when an area is cut, some cells are dead. These dead cells release some chemical signals. Chemical signals. These chemical signals are basically sent from the dying cells. When the cells are dying, they basically release some chemical signals. These chemical signals uh, would cause the platelets, they would reach to the platelets, and the platelets basically would convert their prothrombin to thrombin, or you can also say it would be converting it to thrombokinase. So the thrombokinase is a very important enzyme. Remember that from where the signal came, dead cells. The thrombokinase is a very important enzyme. The thrombokinase would be converting the fibrinogen. Now, the story of the fibrinogen is very interesting. The fibrinogen is a protein made by the liver. Liver made it, and the liver released it into the blood. Into the blood. Now, the fibrinogen is basically a soluble protein. And remember that the active part of the fibrinogen is the fibrin. It is the fibrin that is insoluble, and the fibrin would cause the clotting. The protein that is responsible for the clotting is the fibrin, because it is insoluble and it makes a network. So fibrin creates a mesh of clot, and the blood is not allowed to release outside. So that is the whole story of the working of the platelets. The platelets would be causing the fibrinogen, which is soluble, to insoluble fibrin, which would be creating a mesh, and the mesh would be stopping the blood from the from leaking. Is it understandable?
Yes.
So this is the whole account about the blood, how the blood cells work, how the plasma work, and how different white blood cells work. This is everything. All right. Next thing. Now, since we were talking about um, blood cells and blood, and we have short time now, so I'll not be entering into the concept of the heart. I'll be talking about the blood vessels right now. Most of the time, whenever I have discussed the blood, then I only discuss about the heart in the next step. So the blood vessels basically, okay, can you tell me how many types of blood vessels are there?
Um, so there's three types:
Mm-hmm. Name them.
veins,
Mm-hmm.
arteries,
Mm-hmm.
capillaries.
Mm. If I ask you to differentiate between arteries and veins, how you do it?
So the arteries carry the blood away, and the veins carry towards the heart.
Mm. The arteries carry the blood away, and veins. That's very good. Don't you think the difference lies in the presence of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood?
I'm not sure.
The difference that you told is the real difference. Why? Because it does not have any exception. When it comes to the presence or absence of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, the exceptions exist. There is an artery that contains the deoxygenated blood, and there is a vein uh, that uh, contains the oxygenated blood. So there is what the issue of the other definition, presence or absence of the oxygenated. So real definition is the one that you told. Hold on, let me just take water. Okay, so the first difference is this, but remember that the arteries, veins, and capillaries, these are differentiated or in two ways. Number one is their structure. Number two is their function. So what I often do, I often create a table. I often create a table of table to tell the students that how basically we differentiate them. So uh, let's make the table. First of all, I would write over here. I would write the name of vessel. Okay, this table is made only by me. You may find this same table in your book, but not in this much detail that I'm about to write. One more thing. Sometimes what happens that when I draw the table, I keep on adding some columns. So I would suggest you to not draw it yet. Just uh, listen to and see what I'm doing. Name of vessel. Then I would say number of tissue layers. Number of tissue layers. Number 3, names of tissue layers. Names of tissue layers. Number 4, thickness of tissue layers. Thickness of tissue layers. Number 5. Oh, number 5, size of the lumen. Size of the lumen. Then number 6, direction of blood. Blood. Number 7, uh, function. I can extend this column till here. Okay. So now let's see. First is the arteries. Okay, number of tissue layers in the arteries is 3. Number or names of layers. Number 1 is the muscular tissue. Muscular. Number 2, elastic. And number 3, endothelial. Endothelial. Thickness of tissue layer, you would say all thick. No, hold on. Both 1 and 2 are thick. Both 1 and 2, these both are thick. And endothelial, about the endothelial, I'll write that they are same. Same means that their thickness is similar to veins. So I'll write same as veins. Okay. Next is size of the lumen. The size of the lumen in the artery. Yeah, I just remembered that I have forgotten one column. I guess I should be writing that column on the very next slide. Okay. And that column is, hold on, shape. Okay. So the size of the lumen is smaller than vein. Oh, the ink color changed. Smaller than vein. Direction of blood is away from heart. Function is number 1, taking blood away from heart. Number 2, tolerating or bearing the blood pressure and maintaining it. Tolerating the blood pressure and maintaining it. So, okay, and shape is mostly circular. Got it? You got it or not?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so this is a vessel. From here to here, this is the muscular and elastic layers. Like I'm not differentiating two of them. This region is for muscular and elastic layer, and the blue one is the endothelial layer. And this is lumen. If I draw the vein, then this region is the elastic and muscular layer, and then what layer is I'm drawing? This is the endothelial layer,
Yeah.
and this is lumen. So vein, vein basically contain the same number of layers, three tissue layers, three. Then uh, names of the tissue layers are same, but if I mention them again, number one, muscular, number two, elastic, and number three, endothelial. So I'll mention that these two are very thin. Okay. Next, next layer is uh, next column is size of lumen. Their lumen is wider or maybe larger. Their direction of blood is towards heart. Their function is taking the blood towards heart and also storing the blood. They also store the blood. There's one more thing, one more column I just remember. Cross sectional area or total occupied area in blood. Total occupied area in blood. I'm sorry, in body. Total occupied area in body. Okay. And there is another column. That is why I said don't draw it yet. Blood pressure. Okay. So the shape of the vein is flattened. Shape of the vein is flattened. You can see it over here. It is flattened. Cross-sectional area or total occupied area is least for arteries. Like arteries occupy least area of our body. They are the shortest. They possess the shortest number of vessels. So they occupy the shortest number of vessels. The veins are, although they have a moderate number. Moderate mean their total occupied area is larger than veins, larger than arteries, but less than veins. The blood pressure in the artery is 120 over 80, and the blood pressure in vein is closer to zero. Closer to zero. Coming back to the capillaries. Any confusion?
No, no confusion.
Okay. Only one layer is there in the capillaries, and that is endothelial. The thickness of tissue layer very thin, very thin, very thin. Uh, their size is very narrow, extremely narrow. Direction of blood, I'll not write any of them because they take the blood from the arteries and give it to veins. Function is to ex to make the exchange of substances. Exchange of substances is their function. Their shape is circular. Cross sectional area is the largest. They occupy the largest area in our body. And blood pressure at the arterial end. What is the meaning of the arterial end of the capillary?
Um, Arterial end. I don't know.
See, the capillary takes the blood from the artery. So the blood is entering into the capillary. This is called as arterial end. And the blood is moving towards the veins. So the end closer to the vein is called as venular end. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
At the venular end, there is almost zero blood pressure. So that is the differentiating table between between the arteries, veins, and capillaries. One thing I need to see. Yeah. Okay. One thing that is unique to veins, very unique to veins, and not the rest of the two possess it, is the presence of the valves. What is the function of the valves, by the way?
The valves.
Yeah.
Um,
The valves are also located in the tires.
so they prevent the, what do you call it, the backward flow.
Yeah, they prevent the backflow. So the veins do contain it, but there is no valve in the arteries and veins. There's only one artery that could contain the valve. Okay, I'll write it down over here. In arteries, it is only found in aorta. and no capillary possesses any valve. Any confusion?
No, no confusion.
Okay, this is the table for, yeah, this is another table. Heart, capillaries. They have not mentioned the heart properly here, according to the diagram. It shouldn't have been done like that. Okay, so what is left here? The most important point for the next class is explain how structure of arteries and veins is related to the pressure of the blood. So that is very important to know. I'll explain the structure in this way later. I'll just try to make you understand that I'll tell you two things over here. One is names of the arteries and veins. The principle of names of the arteries and veins is that first use the scientific name of the organ. This is the first rule. Scientific name of the organ. So for lungs, we use pulmonary. What do we use for kidney and for liver?
I don't know.
For kidney, the scientific name is renal. And for the liver, the scientific name is hepatic. Remember that the vessel, obviously you must know that if the vessel is exiting from the heart and moving towards the organ, that what would you call that vessel?
If it's going from the heart to the organ,
To the organ, yes.
it's an artery then, right?
Yes, it's an artery. And for reverse, it's vein. So whenever you see the vessel is taking the blood towards the lungs, you will call it pulmonary artery, towards the lungs. And whenever you see the blood is being taken away from the lungs or towards the heart from the lungs, it would be called as pulmonary vein. Whenever the blood is taken towards the lungs, it is pulmonary artery, and away from the lungs, it is pulmonary vein. Towards the kidney, it would be renal artery. Away from the kidney, it would be renal vein. Hepatic artery, hepatic vein. So, okay, but one artery has a totally different name. An artery takes the blood to nourish heart. Nourish heart. That artery is called as coronary artery. You have to remember this because it is a very important topic in this syllabus, in this chapter. Understood?
Yeah.
Now, for the next classes, we have three things to discuss very importantly. Four basically. Number one, how the artery and vein adapt to their function. Number two, function of capillaries. Number three, heart. And number four, cardiovascular diseases. These are going to be our important topics. And functions of capillary, these in themselves, these articles are literally very demanding. These are very demanding. We are almost finished with we were finished with the blood, almost finished with the blood vessels, and then we'll be getting to the heart. Understood?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum.